On August 28th, 2019, Lloyd Rankin, president of Group ASI, the company organizing the upcoming AWP Conference and AWP Summit on Scalability in Houston and Calgary, spoke with Mark Lambert from Eastman Chemical. Mark is representing Eastman on the AWP Conference Advisory Board and in the program and on the development teams for both the AWP Conference and AWP Summit on Scalability in Houston. Mark and Lloyd talked about AWP as it relates to Eastman Chemical, what's their approach and their perspective, and Mark also talked a little bit about his anticipation for the upcoming AWP events and what attendees can expect from those events. So here's Mark and Lloyd.
We're here to talk with Mark Lambert from Eastman Chemical, who is one of the owner members of the AWP Conference Advisory Board. Mark's being involved in both the Advanced Work Packaging Conference and the Scalable Advanced Work Packaging Summit coming up in Houston this October. And we're just going to talk to Mark a little bit about the conference, the summit, as well as his role with Eastman and Eastman's involvement in advanced work packaging in general. So joining Mark is Lloyd Rankin. Lloyd is the president of Group ASI. Group ASI is the organizer of the Advanced Work Packaging event. And I think I'll just throw it over to you, Lloyd, to maybe introduce yourself, and then to Mark to introduce himself as well.
Sure. Well, thanks, Steve. Yeah, my name is Lloyd Rankin. We've been putting on AWP and workplace planning related events in Canada, the United States, and Europe for the last 10 years. And I'm fortunate this year to have Mark back as one of our advisory board members. So, Mark, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. Again, this is Mark Lambert from Eastman, and upcoming next year, I will have been with Eastman for 30 years in several different roles over the years, but started out in engineering and most recently in the past 10 years or so have been working in our capital projects functions, including our project management organization, responsibility for our construction management function. And now this year in January, to jumpstart and help organize some of our initiatives, I've started working full-time in the capacity of our implementation of advanced work packaging and also some other construction excellence type initiatives. So I'm glad to be working on those for the company.
Great. Well, thanks very much. One of the questions that I think people would be interested in is what caused Eastman to decide that AWP would be a good initiative to pursue, and not just for Eastman but other companies? Why would they want to pursue advanced work packaging as an initiative?
Yeah, I believe for Eastman and for most folks, we always have a strong interest in continual improvement in our project delivery systems. So being a CII member and participating with others, we learned about advanced work packaging and the benefits. And particularly if we could, by implementing advanced work packaging, improve our safety performance and our productivity, which would impact our overall cost and delivery of projects, that would be a great benefit and part of our overall improvement program.
Great. So you've been on the advisory now for a couple of years. What would you say some of the hot issues in AWP implementation are? Areas that companies, whether they're contractors or owners, should be aware of?
Yes, I think what we have observed and maybe didn't recognize going in was that just the change management and the cultural issues are always challenging. And I think this is particularly true when projects are executed in a program approach at sites where maybe we've had long-term practices for the way we deliver. And in some ways, I think, a mega project may have an advantage when you're setting up a new team and new team members specifically for the project. but just the momentum for change and making the good case for change and continually, reinforcing the good benefits and the good practices has, been a piece of work and exciting to work on.
Great. Well, one of the things that I think a lot of organizations are wondering about is, so with advanced work packaging, does it have to be a mega project to make sense to use advanced work packaging on, or can we use it on smaller projects or programs? So I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, at Eastman, our projects generally are not falling into what the industry would call a mega project. So we're executing our capital program in a lot of smaller project sizes. So small projects for us is normal business, as we do a lot of brownfield revamp, capacity increases in smaller project sizes. So I believe we're convinced that the principles and the practices around involving construction early and doing good planning should support improved productivity, whether it's a large or a small project.
Well, and I think that leads us to the next thing. You're participating on the Scalable AWP Summit, and the goal there seems to be to have industry actually develop how to implement this on various types of projects. Can you tell us what's it been like talking with your counterparts in construction and engineering and technology around this particular topic area?
Well, I'll say first, my involvement with the conference over the past couple of years has been very rewarding. And probably the key benefit for me and our company has been the interaction with the others in the industry. Either they're more advanced than we are and they have established programs that we learn from, or they're in our journey of implementing and we learn from each other's challenges. So it's been very helpful to be a part of that with other companies. But this Scalable conference, particularly as we're going to talk about projects under $100 million, I think would represent our chemical industry very well. And I think there's a lot of room for using good common sense and scaling down appropriately when we can some of the practices.
And that's an interesting comment that you made, that applying common sense. I think sometimes in the industry we hear advanced work packaging and, it needs to be big, it needs to be highly procedural, and I don't think that's necessarily true. It does require common sense to be effective. When it comes to Scalable AWP, what are some of the differences that we would see on applying AWP to a smaller project as opposed to applying it to, say, a mega project?
Yes, Lloyd, and I think that's the intent of our Scalability Summit, is to talk about some of those for the different categories of scalable projects. But I think for smaller projects, we have, of course, the documented excellent work by the previous research teams and the templates and the guidance. They're very robust processes, but can be somewhat intimidating to implement on a smaller project. Your team may not have the resource availability to support the full use of the templates and so forth. So as part of our scalability work, we're trying to recommend some slimmer and key elements that can be kept and still achieving the benefits, but making it more cost effective for the project.
Great. One of the things I'm wondering about with regards to the Houston conference, the advisory board's role is to help with establishing the program and making sure that the speakers are, top notch. how have you found the process of being on the advisory board, given that this is your second time round? What do you see your role as an advisory board member, and how do you see that as influencing the conference itself?
Yes, Lloyd, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the board. The biggest benefit I have seen has been the interaction with the other companies, both the owners and the EPC contractors and the technology providers, to learn from the more experienced programs that are further along, and to hopefully get some lessons learned from their process, and to also collaborate with the folks that are just now implementing. It's been most effective and helpful for us in our journey.
Great. And I guess a final question, if somebody was just starting out in the AWP journey, what are some suggestions you would give to them to help them along their path?
I think certainly learning from others is key, and not trying to redefine the whole process. So participation at some of the events we have, like the AWP Conference, to collaborate, relying on the experience of others, utilizing the subject matter experts to really get a jump start on the program is important.
Lloyd and Mark, before we wrap up today, I was hoping you could give me a few words that you would tell someone who may be considering attending the AWP Conference and the AWP Summit on Scalability, just in terms of what to expect and what they can get out of attending those events.
I would say with the conference, there's going to be some of the emerging issues that we said we were going to be addressing in the programming are talking about some of the issues around data and data standards, talking about the value of AWP, the return on investment. There's going to be 25 breakout sessions, so there'll be presentations from contractors and owners and engineers and technology providers. So, one of the things I would say to people is you really need to send a team, because with 25 sessions going on in 5 tracks, the only way you're going to get all the information you want out of the conference is if you send multiple people and have them attend multiple sessions. The difference to me between the conference and the summit is the summit's really zeroing in on one specific area, and so it gives you a lot of information about one specific topic, whereas at the conference you're getting a lot of information on a lot of different topics. So it's probably going to involve different aspects. I mean, if you want to know about procurement, you might go to one session. If you want to know about data management, you might go to another. If you want to know about work phase planning, you could go to another. Whereas with the summit, everything really is going to relate to how you plan and execute these scalable projects, the 100 million and under. So they're both really valuable, but I think they've got a slightly different flavor to them. What would your thought be, Mark?
Yeah, I think about the conference itself. I think of the benefit certainly as being around others in the industry that are doing the same thing your company is doing and trying to implement or trying to improve their implementation, and just being exposed to those and the variety of topics. And I know the one session that we'll do is called "What's in it for me?" So a point of view from owners and EPC companies, and what exactly does it mean to them and what's important. So that's great. And I always love the success stories of a project presentation that's been successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've got a whole new track that's brand new to this year on basically success stories. And I think that's something we really should be talking up, because we had somebody from one of the owners say, you know, we keep talking about it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, but in many ways, we're already there in certain areas, and we do have success stories, so we should be taking the time to share those with people. So I thought that was quite a good point, that we're not just looking at what are we going to do next, but we actually have some pretty good stories from now that we can share with people. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today, and I think the comment that this is a journey is incredibly valid, because we have had companies that have been working on this for a number of years, and they may be getting closer to the destination, but I think they'd be the first ones to say we still got a ways to go, but we're seeing some great benefits, and I think it's due to the contribution of companies like yourself and other members of our advisory board. So thank you very much for your assistance.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. Looking forward to the conference.